During the 1967 bushfires, I was working on the northwest coast. I managed to get some time off and came down that night after work because my parents lived in Geeveston in the Huon Valley. Because the phone lines had been burnt and there were no mobile phones in those days, I had no idea what had happened. So I hopped in the car and started travelling down. When I got to north of Bridgewater, there was a lot of places there where there were sawmills and wood yards. There were racks and stacks of timber both sides of the road, especially on the right, the western side, and they were all in just the daylight was fading, quite spectacular. All of these wood yards had stacks and racks of timber that were alight and glowing in the dark. I went through Hobart without too much trouble and ended up through Fern Tree and down to Longley, passed through a lot of burning bush in that area. Along the way, one of the main things that I noticed is where the telegraph poles, and there were a lot of them, had fallen across the road, they'd left a rut a few inches deep and as wide as a telegraph pole. And every now and then you'd hit one of these, chonk, chonk chonk for both sets of wheels, I suppose, because they'd been all cleared away to allow firefighting access and so on. I eventually got to my home at Geeveston and Mum and Dad's place. That was Bob and Ada Evans. We lived up the 6-foot road that it was called then. It's now the Arve Road, and our place was okay. Dad had an orchard and he had driven around the property with the sprayer, that's the tree sprayer, on the back of the Ferguson tractor with a hose connected, and put out any spot fires and saved the house and the property and the orchard. We stayed up all night, and in the morning we drove around the Huon Valley and found dozens and dozens of houses that had been burnt down, and it all looked pretty horrible. At that stage we didn't know that a lot of people had died, but we found out that later.